Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Rhyme of the Times for the week ending the 11th of November 2023. With each dawn that dawns, Gaza's more war-torn, and people mourn, but hopes of a ceasefire seem forlorn. The police are forewarned and become political pawns, and Rowley probably could have sworn. As Suella causes a storm, and debate is spawned, and divisions are formed. The King's speech is a yawn. Trump pours scorn on James and flouts courtroom norms. The Beatles are digitally reborn. While world tension over Gaza continued to grow, in Britain we were treated to the Braverman show. It started early in the week when she shared her thoughts in words about as subtle as a juggernaut. People were shocked by what the Home Secretary voiced, that homelessness for some was a lifestyle choice. Then on Wednesday, without Rishi's say-so, she wrote a piece in the Times in which she slammed the police, saying they're more lenient to the left-leaning when protesters with different aims are convening. In particular, she thinks the pro-Palestine lobby seems to enjoy a blind eye from the London bobby. Then on Friday, when she met Mark Rowley, the Met head, they agreed the weekend protests should go ahead. She made it clear she didn't want the public frightened. It was armistice and her concerns had been heightened, so she insisted security must be tightened, heightening tensions when they should have been lightened, fanning the flames of pro-Palestinian fire, perhaps wishing it would all go violently haywire, thus providing, in her eyes, the solid grounds to rule future demonstrations out of bounds. And so, just like a self-fulfilling prophecy, trouble did befall our capital city. Islamists and peace seekers against the far right seemingly just there for a fight. Suella had wanted the pro-Palestine march banned after a tumultuous week. Where does she now stand? She says things how she sees them, says what she thinks. Some say she's a breath of fresh air, some say she stinks. Suella Braverman is inflammatory, not at all a flim-flamming Tory. The left thinks she's just a flaming Tory, and this is just a typical Tory story. While Sunak may be getting a tad bit tired of questions on whether his loose cannon would be fired, Starmer didn't have to make such a decision. Imran Hussein quit of his own volition. The Bradford East MP couldn't cope with the silence maintained by Labour over Israel's violence. Like several colleagues, he thinks Starmer's too cautious, only asking for humanitarian pauses. The growing view around the world of what's required is a full and unconditional ceasefire. Israel's objection to withdrawing bombs and troops is that it gives the terrorists time to regroup, and anyway, who's to say Hamas would abide by an order that's meant to apply to both sides? On Sunday, Blinken met Mahmoud Abbas, but hopes to change the overall mood, alas, seem to be forlorn until Israel halts its 24/7 air and ground assaults. On Tuesday, Charles seemed to have a note of despair in his tone as he read out what Rishi had prepared. Charles himself was just about to turn 3 the last time a king carried out this duty. Now the King's speech, read by our new head of the realm, didn't just have our current monarch underwhelmed. Many thought the government programme was quite light, with a lack of ambition and a lack of clear sight. Just a list of previous stuff not yet done and several old ideas being respun. Many Tories are asking what was Rishi thinking if he thought this speech would save their skin. Some wags, knowing an election win's out of reach, joked that the next time a Tory writes the King's speech, it will not only be written by a new Tory leader, it will probably be read by a different royal reader. There are many who think that Nadine Dorries is slightly loopy and loves to tell stories. She also seems to have an infatuation with the blonde bumbler who used to run our nation. No surprise then that she's thrown in her lot with Boris in her new book called The Plot. It tells of how Johnson's demise was quite eerie. He was a victim of one huge conspiracy theory. Most people have moved on and won't care a jot whether she's on to something or has just lost the plot. Is it fiction or non-fiction in the local bookshop? A Christmas bestseller or a bargain bin flop? The COVID inquiry this week gave more headlines about what went on in those very strange times. The focus again was on Bojo and his cabinet crew and whether they really had a Scooby-Doo. We learned that to try to stop the rapid spread of fear about the virus, Boris, it seems, said he would take a dose of COVID in front of the nation to prove there was no need for panic stations. A potential primetime television suicide intended to get public alarm to subside. Trump has more cases than an aeroplane hold, but still he acts big, bullish, brash and bold. Even by court officials he will not be told. On Monday, in his Ford case, he could not be controlled, arguing and making unsubstantiated claims against New York Attorney General Letitia James. He's received court fines of $15,000 for jibes made when he's become hot under the collar. Friday saw the return of 4 famous men. 2 are no longer with us, but then again, technology can make things like way back when. In the 70s, a song had flowed from Lennon's pen. Now the Beatles are number 1 with Now and Then.